Hey guys, it's Troy Francis. Welcome to my channel, The Dating Game with Troy Francis, and welcome to another stream. So today we're going to be discussing 5 reasons why promiscuous men are more desirable to women, okay? Really interesting topic, one that you really need to understand. And this is kind of aimed at both the guys out there and also the ladies as well. It's aimed at the guys because you guys need to get it into your head that women like these elements of a dude that on the surface might seem to be not good, right? That, you know, the old adage, nice guys finish last and women love a jerk and all of that. Okay. You need to kind of understand this, because if you don't, then what you're going to find is that you're just going to continue to not get very good results in modern dating. And look, all of this stuff, it's become even more acute, I would say, as time has gone on, right? 2023 was pretty crazy. 2024, it's just going to go even more crazy, okay? So you really need to understand this stuff because it's not going to get any easier, okay? The dating scene is not going to get any easier. Women, the girls out there watching this, you also need to understand this stuff as well. And look, you can agree with me or you can disagree with me. You can put it in the comments and let me know what you think. But ultimately, women need to understand this as well, because you've got to ask yourself as a woman, right, is the behavior that you engage in, is the way in which you act as far as men is concerned, is that actually getting you where you want to be, or is it not? Okay, and a lot of the time it isn't, because we know a lot of women out there are not very happy with their dating pool and the options that they've got and the outcomes that they get. Okay, so this is kind of applicable to both, but I want to dive into it because it's a really fascinating thing, I think, and it's kind of counterintuitive as well. So much stuff in this space, when we talk about dating, we talk about relationships, and we talk about attraction, why people are attracted to one another. So much of this stuff is kind of counterintuitive, and it's not how you would think it would be, all right? I mean, even this title, right? 5 reasons promiscuous men are desirable to women. Well, if you were coming at this from any sort of mainstream angle of understanding, you would think, well, that's just complete nonsense. Like, why the hell would any woman be attracted to somebody who is promiscuous, right? Surely, intuitively, right, what she wants is a dude who is going to be faithful. She's going to be his number one. He's not going to be looking around. He's not going to be playing around, etc., etc. In fact, that's not the case, and we're going to dive into why. If you have questions and if you have comments, please put them into the chat and we will deal with them as, you know, we get through the stream. If you guys don't know who I am, by the way, my name is Troy Francis. I'm a dating coach. I've been a dating coach for over a decade. I've taught countless men all over the world how to improve their prospects in dating. I've taught some very, very high value men, you know, millionaires, multimillionaires, people with a lot of influence who just haven't had this part of their life dialed in. So that gives me a unique insight into what high-value men want and what they're looking for. And also, I've known a lot of women over the way as well, both in terms of people I've dated and people that I've met. And so I've got a very good idea, too, of what women are looking for. So we're covering all bases here, really. I'm really trying to solve this issue of modern dating, which at the moment is pretty fucked. Before we crack into the topic, though, what I thought I would do is just show you a tweet that I've just seen by our friend John Zerker, and let's just have a look at this because I think it's kind of relevant here, so I'm going to bring it up now. Okay, so Zerker, who many of you will be aware of because he's quite famous, well, for various things really. He's quite famous for being on Fresh and Fit a lot and saying outrageous things, and Pearl's interviewed him several times, and I've actually been on a show with him as well. I was on a show with him in Miami back in the summer. It was myself, obviously Pearl was running the show, John Zerker, Gary the Numbers Guy, Tiffany Fox, the renowned former adult entertainment star, and some other people, and it all kind of went off, to be honest. We all got into like a bit of a beef at first and kind of ended up a little bit more amicable, but it was pretty funny. Anyway, so Zerker's a very interesting guy, and he has some very interesting things to say. He did this tweet earlier, and it says, "You have seen me look badass, look stupid, look like a fool, and anything else you can imagine, and women still chase me like dogs. You saw me do this with no clout, no money, and no friends. You have never seen Logan Paul or any YouTuber come close to replicating this magnetism. And you have never come to the conclusion that the only thing that separates me from the world is that I know that women crave toxic. Okay? And then he says, go to my website, you fucking incel fucks. But the first bit is the key thing, really, which is I know that women crave toxic, okay? And there's several things in here that we could unpack, right? So, yes, he has online looked badass. He has, occasionally looked stupid. Some crazy things have happened to him, like when he got into that fight in Miami recently and he got beaten up by that dude who was, significantly smaller than him. He's done things to look foolish, etc., but he still gets this female attention, okay? And he said that he's done this, when he didn't have money, when he had no friends, when he didn't really have the online status that he has now, okay? And what he's putting all of this down to is a very simple thing, which is that he understands that women crave toxic, okay? Now, I think he's onto something here, okay? I think he's onto something here. I mean, Zerker, whatever you may think of him, whatever you may know about him, and whatever you've seen of him sort of in, online or whatever, he is somebody who's very perceptive. He is somebody who kind of gets this stuff in his own kind of slightly crazy way. And what he's saying here really is at the root of what we're going to be going through today, which is that women are attracted to the dark triad characteristics in men, okay? Women are attracted to bad boys, right? So dudes who have these kind of slightly antisocial traits. So narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism, okay? And sometimes even sadism, although let's put that to one side. But women are certainly attracted to guys who have these darker traits to them, okay? And I think one of the problems for a lot of you dudes out there who are trying to date, you're trying to get some traction here, and it's just not really happening. Like, maybe you are, maybe you're like, you're approaching and nothing's really coming through, or you're approaching and you're getting some phone numbers but they're not responding, or you're approaching, you're getting some phone numbers and you're going on dates but then they're friend-zoning you afterwards, or they're ghosting you or whatever, right? Then, as I was saying in the stream yesterday, right, there's something lacking here. And I think men tend to have this Madonna whore perception of women where they sort of think, oh, well, she looks really nice, so she must be this very innocent person, she must be this very sweet kind of angelic girl. And what they don't recognize is that actually underneath it, firstly, women are more sexual than men, or arguably women are more sexual than men. They've got some pretty fucked up fantasies and desires and fetishes and things going on. And secondly, they are they have this craving for toxicity, right? And this is what Zerker's talking about. Now, Zerker is probably somebody who, has exhibited all of that stuff. He's clearly, well, I mean, look at his socials. He's clearly not somebody who's like a monogamous guy. I mean, if people are, the girls that he's engaging with are aware of him on social media, and a lot of them probably are, they will know that he's, having a good time, let's say, in various hotel rooms across Miami and different places, and that isn't putting them off, okay? They still want a piece of the pie. Why could that be? Well, Zerker is a high-value man. I mean, he's been in his ups and downs, but, he's a decent-looking bloke. He's tall, he's articulate, he has clout, he's got some money now. He is ticking many of the boxes for the high-value guy, okay? And there's always this idea, well, women would rather share a high-value guy than they would settle with a beta male, a lesser-value man, and have him all to themselves, okay? This is something that you need to understand if you're not getting traction in dating, because, well, we're going to go through this list in a minute, but if you don't get this, then you're not going to be getting the results you want to be getting. We've got a few comments here. Pearl, go Troy. Cheers for tuning in, Pearl. Good to see you here. Marriage Causes Divorce says, women love narcissists. They love the dark triad. They need drama-rich environments. Exactly. And we're going to be getting into that in a second. And then he also says women love travel because they love adventure, drama, and excitement. By the way, guys, any questions, any comments, put them into the chat. We will deal with them as we go through, okay? And if you've got questions on this stuff, or, you know, your opinion differs, then do put it in there, because I want to make these streams as actionable as possible for you, okay? So if you've got something that you feel hasn't been clarified, or you want to offer an alternative point or something, then put it in and we can talk about it, because that's what the point of this is, right? It's not just me sitting here talking for an hour or 2 hours, right? It's got to be about, you know, what you guys want, male or female, and we'll try and fill in those gaps, okay? So think about this more as a dialogue than as a one-way street, and put anything that you want to bring into the chat, and if you want to slag me off or whatever, you can do that as well. Stone Balls, what a name, says it's taken 60 to 70 years of feminism to get us to this point, and it's getting worse. Do we really think this will change? And if so, how long will it take? Well, when you say if it will change, I mean, I guess you mean the modern mating marketplace, right? The modern dating marketplace. I can't see it changing, to be honest. I don't want to be the bringer of bad tidings, but I can't see it changing anytime soon. In fact, if anything, I think it's going to get worse, because when you think about the elements that have caused the situation that we're in, I mean, you mentioned feminism. Yes, that's one thing, you know, sexual liberation and so on. Of course, that's a big element of it, but it's also about the technology, right? It's about social media. It's about Instagram. It's about the dating apps. It's about the connectivity that we have internationally in this global dating marketplace that now we're all in. So, you know, she's comparing you to the bloke on the yacht in Miami who's got a 12-pack and he's, you know, worth $1 billion or whatever, right? You know, so the dating marketplace has become much more competitive, and I can only see that continuing. I can't see that getting any easier. I really can't. So, again, I don't want to be the bringer of bad tidings here, but, you know, if you want to have any chance of making it work with the way things are, then you need to be, number one, you need to be leveling up. So you need to be working on your self-improvement, all of the key elements, which is fitness, fashion, grooming, the way that you look, you know, like looks maxing as much as you can, going to the gym, working on your career, working on your money, all of that good stuff, having a fucking interesting life. That's the other thing, you know, not a boring life. You want to have all of that stuff in play. And you also need to work on your game, right? You need to work on your riz. You need to work on your social skills and your social freedom. You kind of need all of it, all right? You could say, well, that's not fair. Why do guys have to do all this work? Well, life's tough. That's just how it is, okay? Anyway, with that being said, let's get into the topic, which is this 5 reasons why promiscuous men are seen as more desirable. Number 1, well, it's because promiscuous men are just inherently more attractive than other guys, okay? They're just inherently more attractive. Why is that? Well, because if you're a guy who has the ability to be promiscuous, and I accept that there are ranges of quality here. I mean, if you're being promiscuous, but it's with a bunch of, you know, toothless Bulgarian overweight women in the middle of a village somewhere, then that's probably not that great. But if we're talking about, you know, with some reasonable, you know, decent quality women, and you're able to be promiscuous, then that in itself would indicate that you must have certain qualities that make you just more attractive. You are probably, and listen, you know, don't shoot me, I'm not going to, you know, don't want to black pill anybody here, but you're probably better looking. All right? Or at least, you know, you've probably maximized the way that you look to the highest extent so that you are above the threshold of other people. Now, actually, there was a blogger called Good Looking Loser, an early manosphere blogger. He does do some video stuff now, but I think he's on Rumble. Not very big on video, but his blog, his written blog, was fantastic. And there's some just great stuff on there. I'd highly encourage you, if you haven't read his stuff, to go back and search for it. You can still get it online. There's archives of it. And his message was actually very simple. It was basically, look good, approach as much as possible, be super social, push for the close. That is to say, move things towards, you know, intimacy as fast as you can. and rinse and repeat, okay? Taking a lot of the nonsense out of all of the game stuff, a lot of the bullshit, a lot of the complexities, and just being, look, yeah, look good, right? Go to the gym, wear decent clothes, be in shape, have a good haircut, right? Fucking basic stuff, right? But look as good as you can, approach as much as you can, be aggressive in terms of moving things forward towards escalation, and that's it. And keep doing that, okay? And actually, that message is still relevant today. All of that stuff, Jesus, how unprofessional. All of that stuff is exactly what you should be doing, right? You know, if you do that and you do that enough, then you're going to have a better dating life than like 95% of other guys on the planet, okay? So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. But, you know, the guys who are racing it, they're going to have this stuff dialed in, right? They're probably going to be the more attractive. And actually, the reason I mentioned good-looking loser was this. The other thing that he says is that, yeah, you need to look good, but you don't need to look that good. We're only talking about, you know, a percentage or two higher than the average dude. That's it. We're not talking, not everybody has to be Justin Waller, okay? Not everybody has to have a 12-pack. It's not quite that, you know, it's not quite that competitive yet. You just have to look a bit better than the other dudes around you, okay? And on average, the other dudes around you are obese, they're sitting in the basement, eating their metaphorical or literal Cheetos, they're not looking after themselves, they've got man boobs, they're out of shape, they're watching porn 24/7, they're not really doing very much of any values, right? So actually, the bar is not that high. You just need to be a bit better than that, okay? So anyway, these are guys who are better than average, okay? Height, maybe that comes into it a bit. I think height gets massively overstated in this space, but yeah, maybe that comes into it a little bit. But they probably are guys who have shit going on in their lives. They are going to be guys who probably lead pretty interesting lives. They do kind of interesting things. Maybe they're guys who travel a lot. Maybe they're guys who are in business for themselves. Perhaps they're making some decent money, okay? You know, maybe they're making some good money. Money's not the be-all and end-all, but as we said yesterday, it does help to facilitate, get you in front of higher tier women, okay? Maybe they've got that going on. And, yeah, and they've probably got some riz as well, okay? If you look at Zerker, right, so Zerker is a very good example of somebody who, and he sells a course on it, right? But he's clearly somebody who has that inherent ability with women because he's funny, he's charming, he's quite loud, you know, he has a loud, commanding voice, he has that dominant sort of aspect to his personality. Okay, all of that stuff counts for something. Now, I've seen people online saying, well, yeah, but Zerker looks like a Calvin Klein model, so, you know, whatever. But it's not just about that, right? It's about how he comes across and how he engages with these women. And you can see on the videos that he's not taking their shit. He's kind of teasing them. He's giving them shit back, right? He's creating polarity. He's creating tension and so on and so forth, right? So if we're pegging him as not pegging him, that would be weird. If we're categorizing him as a promiscuous man, which I think probably fair to say he is, then you can see that there's somebody, and he's got all of these bases covered, okay? And he is just inherently more attractive than the average chode who is a bit of a boring fucker, who doesn't have a lot to say, who probably isn't very funny, isn't very challenging, isn't very dominant, isn't leading an interesting life, isn't in decent shape, doesn't have any money, doesn't have status, and all the rest of it, okay? So the guys who are able to be promiscuous in this market are simply going to be the more attractive guys. But, and this is before any of the black pill incel people come into the chats. Oh, so sorry about this, guys. That's before any of the incel black people come into the chat. The fact is, it's not just about looks, okay? It's about these other aspects as well. Super, super key. Super, super important. Right. We got some comments. Mart says, good stuff. Thank you. Yeah, okay. So marriage causes divorce says you have to be better than the women choosing to be single. Okay, I feel half naked. Right, here we go. He says, I followed your last night's advice. I invited out an 8x10 girl, though I'm currently a 6 out of 10 guy. I feel empowered, although she didn't allow me to sleep with her. It sounds like that's quite a formal way of putting it. I put in a formal application, but she didn't allow me to sleep with her. I mean, well, is it game over though? I mean, can you not see her again? Can you set up another date? I mean, sometimes these things, take time. It may take a couple of dates or something. So depending on how you left it, I wouldn't rule it out yet. There may still be some mileage in that perhaps. So let us know what happened. I mean, how did it finish? Did she just say, oh, I never want to see you again? Or do you think there could be the possibility to make another date and maybe make things happen next time? I mean, look, realistically, right? I mean, yeah, we live in this permissive sort of hypersexualized society, but nevertheless, a lot of the time, women are still not necessarily going to sleep with you on the first date. It might be the second date. It may sometimes be the third. I mean, that's not so much of a problem. I think what you want to be avoidant of is if she's just holding out for so long, like you're going on 10 dates, and particularly if she's also expecting you to spend a lot of money and everything, because then you start to think, well, what's actually going on here? Does she actually like me, or is this just some kind of weird charade, or she's just here for the free meals or whatever? But a couple of dates, a few dates, okay, fine. I mean, you got to be patient. People have different, and depending on where these women are from as well, some women come from a culture where having sex too quickly is very much frowned upon, so they tend to be resistant to it. Other women come from America, so they just give it up immediately. It just depends, right? So just be cognizant of that, I would say. Marriage Causes Divorce says, if the woman is better off single than to be with you, that is a damning indictment of your value. Well, yeah, I suppose so. I guess so. But, I mean, not every woman necessarily wants to be in a relationship. I mean, I don't know. It depends. I mean, depends what she's looking for. Depends what you're looking for. She might not, the key thing is she attracted enough to you to be intimate with you? Okay? Are you guys sleeping together? All right? I mean, that's the first thing. Because, okay, she might not want a relationship, but she probably wants to, it's unlikely that she doesn't want to get laid at some point. So if she's rejecting you sexually, that's one thing. And it's like, okay, fine, right, it's game over. If you are sleeping with her, but she's resistant to a relationship, then that's another thing, because maybe there might be other reasons for that, okay? That may not be a damning indictment of your value. It may just be where she is in her life, okay? I think genuinely. So anyway, 5 reasons why promiscuous men are more desirable. So number 2, so by definition, and this is a continuation of the last point, by definition, he must be a high-value man, okay? We keep using this term high-value man, which famously was debated by Rollo Tomasi and Sneeko and Destiny, and there was all of this sort of caveating around what it means to be a high-value man. But let's just park that for 1 minute and assume it kind of means money, muscles, game, frame. He's in decent shape, he's got some money, he looks good, he probably presents himself well. Let's assume it's kind of that for the time being. If he's being promiscuous, then he is likely one of those dudes, okay? He's got a rotation, okay? He's got a rotation of women. Well, women would rather share a high-value man than they would be with somebody who is less than average, less than what they want, and have him be faithful to her, okay? That is the sad and harsh truth of the matter. Women would rather be with a guy that they regard as high value than they would be with a lesser guy who is going to be super, super faithful to them, and so on and so forth. Now, I've experienced this in my own life, I mean, I was dating, I say dating, I mean very loosely. I was very loosely dating a woman a few years ago, and it was all unspoken. We didn't really get into sort of any conversation about the, fidelity, or if we were monogamous or whatever. But I mean, clearly that was what she she wanted. You know, she was this Polish woman. She was living in London. She was pretty cool. She worked for a big designer label. She was living in this quite fancy flat down near the river, and you know, we used to go over there. I used to meet up with her there and stuff. And you know, she was, for whatever reason, she must have obviously clearly been clinically insane, but she was pretty into me. You know, she really, really liked me. I didn't entirely reciprocate the feelings. I mean, I liked her. I thought she was, you know, she was cool. She was pretty hot. She was attractive. We had a good time together, but I wasn't really super invested in the whole thing, right? You know, it was kind of like, well, yeah, whatever. And as a result of that, and because I hadn't made any commitment to her, right, I'm still playing the field. And I never said that to her. You know, I didn't sit down and have this big conversation and kind of talk it through with her. But that was how it was going. And she was clearly aware of this. Okay, she was clearly aware of this. And I know that she was aware of it because a couple of times she actually caught me. I mean, there was one time that she literally saw me out with a different girl, okay? And she kind of ignored me for 2 days. She gave me the silent treatment for 2 days. She wouldn't speak to me. And then she came back online and she just asked me to, you know, and we were back on and she asked me to come round and it was as if nothing had ever happened. And then there was another occasion where I know she was aware that I was in contact with another girl. And again, you know, she got kind of shitty about it for a day or a day or two, but she still continued to see me, okay? And the reason for that was that she, you know, foolishly, my haters would say, but she regarded me as high value enough that she didn't want to lose me, okay? And so even though she was aware that this other stuff was happening in the background, she wasn't going to let that split us up, okay? I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I'm proud of that behavior, but that's the reality of how it was. And one of the interesting things that you'll find is that the less concerned you are about appeasing her or about, you know, oh my God, I've got to be so careful. I can't do anything wrong because otherwise she's just going to leave me and she's going to hate me. You know, she's never going to speak to me or sleep with me again. The more concerned you are with that, the more likely that is to happen. Whereas, quite frankly, if you don't really give much of a damn and you're just kind of doing your own thing and keeping it super casual on your end, that's when these women tend to hang around and they tend to stay and they tend to just cling to you even more. Okay, it's really fucking strange. It's really counterintuitive. I mean, Pearl, I was talking to Pearl yesterday. She did a tweet yesterday where she said something along the lines of, having interviewed thousands of women, I've come to the sad conclusion that the best way to keep a woman faithful to you is to cheat on her. Which, again, it's one of those things, if you looked at that at face value without having any knowledge of any of this stuff or any experience around dating or this kind of area, you would think was completely nonsense. You would think that's completely counterintuitive, because how can cheating on a woman possibly, on what planet can that make her want to hang around? But that was Pearl's observation, and you know, we were talking about it afterwards, and certainly I'm aware of examples of where the guy has cheated and he's owned the fact that he's cheated, and then the woman has maybe been angry for a few days, maybe she's gone offline for a few days, but then she's come back. And I think this is the key. And I'm not condoning cheating here. I'm not saying you should go out and cheat or anything like that. I think if you make a promise to somebody, you make a commitment to somebody, you should stand by that, because that's the right fucking thing to do. But you need to be aware of these dynamics, okay? And sorry, just to add to that, just to emphasize, that is if you've made that promise. That is if you've made that commitment. If you don't make that commitment, right, and, you know, when you're entering into the relationship, when you're casually dating, if you haven't had a conversation, you haven't made that commitment. So really, at that point, all's fair in love and war, right? Because she's probably dating around as well. So Why are, you can do the same thing until you guys have sat down and it's been made clear that, okay, right, this is exclusive, these are the ground rules. If that happens, then okay, that's a slightly different territory. But if you avoid that, then really it's kind of open season. But, at the same time, you have to be aware that she might be doing her own thing as well, which maybe you're not happy with. But whatever. I mean, the point is that this thing about the high value man paradox is just so crazy. But and this is why a lot of these the incel accounts, or the guys who are, they're not getting action, they're not getting success in this area, they get so angry about this, because they would see it very logically and say, well, look, that's ridiculous. What should be happening is that women should be dating at their own level. Okay, so if she's an 8, she dates an 8. If she's a 6, she dates a 6. If she's a 3, she dates a 3. And of course, what we're seeing happening now with the dating apps is that women are quite easily able to access dudes who are higher than them on the totem pole and probably have sex with those guys. Because guys, as we know, often a bit less discriminating. He might be a Chad, but there's a little bit of a dry spell, or his girlfriend's just dumped him, and he's like, okay, I'll get Sheila over. She's only a 5 or whatever, but it'll be fun for the evening. Now, of course, then the question is, well, would he actually wife her up? Would he engage with her over the longer term? Probably not. That's another question. But in terms of who's getting the sexual access, as we know, it is this top percentile of guys, and women would rather share one of those guys than they would go with somebody who they regard as being lesser, okay? And for that reason, a guy who is promiscuous and who therefore is, by definition, inherently one of the more attractive guys, women are going to rather share him, regardless of his promiscuity, regardless of his philandering conduct, than she would be with a lesser man who may be faithful, okay? And here's the other thing, right? You've got to ask the question, is faithfulness actually a virtue? Fidelity in relationships, is it actually a virtue? Or is it just something that's born out of necessity? Okay? So if you are a guy who is, and listen, I know people, I hate the numbering system. I know people hate the numbering system. Even my mother said to me, the only thing I don't like about what you guys talk about is when you're numbering people, because you're treating them, and I do agree, I get it. But for shorthand, let's carry on doing it anyway. If you are a dude who is, of a lower tier, say you're a 3 or a 4 or whatever, you're not up there with the Chads, okay? Then firstly, it's going to be easier for you to be faithful because you're going to have less options. And secondly, you've got less options, so it's going to be harder for you to cheat. So in a sense, and then you can wrap it up in a nice bow and say, well, I'm so virtuous because I'm this monogamous guy and I would never go behind her back. But if you haven't got the option to go behind her back anyway, then what does that really mean? It's kind of meaningless, isn't it, right? So, again, the guys who have the ability to be promiscuous, they are the more attractive guys. And women in the current dating marketplace, because they are no longer beholden to men financially, because there is much less pressure early on, at least, to get married and to settle down, and there is a sort of you go girl kind of culture out there which would encourage women to pursue sexual pleasure and sexual fulfillment above other things, then they're going to be going for those top guys, and they don't really give a damn if he's fucking around behind her back or not. Okay, we've got some comments here. We got a lady in the chat who is disagreeing. Michael Sartain, so marriage causes divorce. Michael Sartain said something like, a woman who will sleep with you on the first night is probably mentally ill or broken. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, look, I love Mike Sartain. He's a great guy. He's very intelligent. He's very perceptive. He's very analytical. But do I agree with that? No, I don't think so, no. I would be interested in the context in which he said that. I think, though, that it would be an exaggeration to say, if people get the impression by watching these, dating videos and watching online gurus and things that these guys are just getting, women are having sex with them immediately, I would say that's a bit of an exaggeration. I think actually most women are probably going to want to wait a date or two because they want to make sure, firstly, they got to be sure that they're safe with you. And secondly, that the vibe's there, the attraction's there, and so on and so forth. And thirdly, they don't want to look slutty, Like most women want to at least maintain the appearance of being quite virtuous, okay? So the issue is not, do you wait a date or two before you guys become intimate? I mean, that's fine. That's neither here nor there. The real issue is she making you wait for 3 months? And if she's making you wait for 3 months, why? And is she also asking you to pay for things and take her for fancy dinners and stuff? Because if that's the case, then that is a problem, I would say. And then Mary Sullivan says not true. And then Marriage Causes Divorce says being single is better than sharing a high-value man, which is better than being a low-value man. So the worst thing is being with a low-value man. Yes, I would agree. And then Mary Sullivan says being single is better than sharing. Mary Sullivan says, exactly, these manosphere guys always forget women have standards and would prefer to be single. Okay. And then Half Naked says, sometimes high value doesn't necessarily mean a girl decided to sleep with him quick. True. And then women say they want an interesting, intelligent guy. She just implies a beta male who can be easily controllable down the road. Well, I think you can be interesting and intelligent, and you can also be an alpha, or you can also be, let's not put it like that. Let's say you can be the lover rather than the provider. Okay, maybe that's a different way of putting it. You can still be the kind of exciting, fast sex lover type dude and be interesting and intelligent. I mean, I don't think intelligence in itself is a super attractive trait. I mean, I think it social intelligence and the ability to be interesting when you talk and the ability to be engaging and to bring her in and to think of cool things to say, that's attractive. I don't think, a PhD in computer science or physics or something is particularly attractive, okay, to most women. I mean, she might think it's cool, she might admire that, but it's not necessarily going to get her wet, okay? So I think intelligence gets overplayed. But if you have intelligence whereby you are able to be impressive in a conversation, you're impressive on the date, you can entertain her, you can draw her into your world, then that's a good thing. If a woman sleeps with you quick, I think she's just insecure, just chasing attention and validation. Not necessarily. I wouldn't agree with that. I think that's a little bit judgmental. Maybe she just likes you. Maybe she's just horny. So Mary says, we have plenty of experience and it is nonsense that women want a cheater. Well, you say that, but, the dating app data shows that women find the majority of men unattractive, okay? Women are only looking really at a certain percentile of men. Now, look, okay, in the real world, getting off the internet, getting away from the dating apps, I agree that the picture is somewhat different, okay? It's not the case that the only people that are getting laid in London are these multimillionaire kind of 6'7" chads with sculpted jawlines and 12-pack abs. That's of course not the case. I do accept that. However, it does appear that women are increasingly targeting guys who are of higher value. And when you look at all these interview shows and podcasts and things like that, and they actually interview women and talk to real women, that is confirmed. Women are looking for really status, decent looks, height, all of these different things. And there are so many situationships that happen in the modern world, okay? And we know that situationships are not monogamous. So I think what's happening is that women aren't going out there and saying consciously or verbally, yes, I'm happy to go with a cheater, right? Nobody's saying that. Nobody's even thinking that. I don't believe most women are thinking that. But I think on some subconscious level, women will go into those situations because they find the guy hot. You know, I mean, it's quite simple, really. It's not that she's with the super hot guy. She's bagged a date with this dude, and he's like a Chad. He's got it going on, whatever. And she's attracted to him, right? She wants to get intimate with him, okay? Now, in the back of her mind, there might be the thought, oh, I bet this guy's a bit of a player. I bet he plays around, blah, blah, blah. Often, she just ends up and goes ahead anyway. Okay, because the desire outweighs. So it's not as simple as, yeah, you're right. I mean, she's not saying, this guy's clearly a cheater, but that makes me want to sleep with him and engage in a relationship with him. No, she's not thinking that at all. If anything, she's probably thinking, oh, hopefully I can change him, or hopefully he will realize how great I am, and then, that. Or she's just putting it out of her mind. But I think tacitly, women are accepting men who are non-monogamous, because women are targeting men in a higher group, and men in that higher group often by just by nature are going to be non-monogamous because they have more options. Okay, that's my perception anyway. Broken, low quality women will put up with a cheater. Yeah, that's true. It's one minute you want to be with who we call with cheating. Well, look, I mean, there's shades of grey here, though, guys, isn't there? I think what you're looking at in a very obvious way, where it's all out in the open. She's completely aware he's a cheater. She's like, yeah, I'm happy to be in a relationship with a cheater. I mean, yes, you're right. 99.9% of women are never going to say that. They're never going to admit to that. But I'm not talking about it being this overt, on the table thing that everyone's agreed to. What I'm talking about is, in reality, we know that women will frequently forgive guys who have cheated on them, okay? Because whatever it is about that guy that is attractive, that's made her want to be with him, that is sufficient that it overrides the fact that he may have cheated, okay? If a girl say a girl comes from a small provincial town, small background, whatever, she goes to the big city, she goes to Miami, she goes to London, she bags a date with this super high value dude. He's good looking, he's rich, he's got an amazing car, he travels, he stays in the best hotels, he has a fucking great lifestyle, and he's sexy, he goes to the gym, he works out, he's in fucking great shape. Do you really think that she's going to pass up dating that dude? Because occasionally in the background, maybe a little indiscretion happens here or there. Fuck no. Of course not. You know? Women aren't stupid. I mean, women know when they meet the dude who is of that caliber, they know that guy has options, and they know male nature. They know that probably from time to time he might act out on that. It's about tacit acceptance. It's not about an overt contract. It's about what happens under the surface. In my experience, a girl who sleeps too quick will be prone to just one night stand because she cannot rationalize what she has done. That's the sad reality of being a player. But if he waits until third date, he probably wouldn't see her again because high-quality girl gets into a relationship quickly. Don't disagree, high-value men are rare, but outside of hookup culture, no woman wants to share a husband. Well, yeah, look, I don't disagree. I don't think there are many women out there who are going, oh, I just want to marry this guy and he's going to fuck other women. I don't think women are consciously thinking that or would express desire for that. Of course, I agree. What I'm saying though is that in reality, what's happening out there, you know, and in reality, we're not saying women consciously and verbosely will go out there and shout from the rooftops, I want to find a guy who's going to cheat on me in marriage. But in the end, a lot of women do end up putting up with that as part of the deal, okay? Because again, you've got to look at what is the toss-up here, right? You know, okay, guy who's super high value in all of these different aspects, or a guy who's sort of mediocre, but he's going to be super faithful, right? And put it this way, right? Here's another thing. Even if she does select for the other guy who's going to be super faithful because really he hasn't got the options to do anything else, is she actually going to be happy with that dude long term? Probably not, right? Almost certainly not, because he's not really lighting her fire, okay? So even women who do resist this and say, no, that's not what I want, I'm going to go the other way, blah, 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 they often don't end up in a great situation. either. So often it's these women who effectively turn a blind eye to the... I mean, look, this has been a huge thing for centuries, okay? You know, you think... We often talk... In England, we often talk about French culture and French society, and we'll say, you know, the French idea of a marriage is basically, well, they're married, she's at the top of the pinnacle, she is the queen, but... occasionally, you know, he might have the odd little dalliance here and there. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't take away from the way that he feels about her, for the love that he shares with her, for the experience of life that he has with her. You know, they are the main couple, all right? But guys are going to be guys, okay? Now, not every woman, of course, is going to accept that, and most women probably wouldn't knowingly or overtly sign up for that, but that doesn't mean it isn't happening, okay? Because you've got to look at, okay, what's the ideal? What do people say on the surface? And then how do they actually act? I think that's the point of contention here. Vaughan Williams, the composer, is here. He says, once I did a computer course when I met a very thick, do you mean thick or stupid, 30s woman who was obviously targeting a rich computer guy. Yeah, fair enough. SJ says, Troy, are you the only red pill guy that goes out? I see most are married and very negative about it for some reason. Well, you know, I mean, yeah, I go out, I date, I travel around, I do all of that stuff. I mean, there's a kind of a... I came from a sort of dating coach background. I've come from a game background, pickup artist background, whatever you want to call it, right? Which was all about taking action and actually going out there and doing it. And then you've got this other side of things, which is the RP side, which is more of the theoretical side. I mean, Rollo talks about it, actually. He says, my work explains what happens under the bonnet in the car, whereas the dating guys, you know, they go out and drive the car. He's the guy who kind of understands the mechanics of it, all right? So there's there's kind of two sides to the coin, if you like, and I'm a little bit more towards the side of action, trumping, sitting around and talking about this stuff online, okay? Even though I do now sit around and talk about this stuff online. But yeah, absolutely, you know, I get out there and I see this stuff happening for real. And also I coach guys, okay? We coach guys. We coach hundreds of thousands of guys all over the world. So we've got a pretty good idea. We've got a very good idea, actually, of what's going on. Not just in the West, not just in London, not just in the States, but also in, you know, across the world. So, yeah, absolutely. Do other people in the space go out? I mean, a lot of the sort of the big names who do podcasts. I mean, Myron certainly used to go out a lot. I think that he goes out less now because of his, you know, he's well known and also he's extremely busy. But yeah, certainly that there are other people who are more like armchair theorists. But I do think that actually going out there and living it is very important as well. So Ben Laken, hi Ben, says, any point of view from game theory, R versus K selection perspective? I think R versus K selection is kind of bollocks, to be honest. I don't take it very seriously. I think it's, you know, I think all women operate the same, really. I don't think there's some fundamental difference between women. I think there can be, you know, at different points in their lives they may act differently, but I think the theory is massively overplayed and is kind of nonsense in this context. High value women will be way too offended if their partner cheats. Well, how are you defining high value? What does that even mean? Women will not be happy either way. Not happy with a high value cheater and not happy with a low value nice guy. That's probably true. That's probably true. And that's not just true of women. That's true of all of us. Because I think in the end, you know, in the end, you always kind of want the thing that you haven't got, you know? So yeah, I think there's probably some wisdom in that comment. Sure, it's happening in hookup culture, just not in marriage, like I mentioned. Well, I don't know. The answer is pre-selection. Women is very competitive, and they always choose what is best for them and nothing else. They want the best male. If a woman is looking for these attributes that Troy says she is looking for in a high-value man, I am not interested in her. Mary says Troy is one of the good ones. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate you for coming on here as well and watching. And then SJ says, to be honest, I think you have the most insight, especially 2024, given your real-world experience and versus not having been out since the MSN or MySpace era. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've still got MySpace. So I asked the girl, have you got Instagram? No. Oh, MySpace? And actually, that brings us on to the next point. So point number 3, as the gentleman very astutely said, point number 3 is pre-selection. Okay, very simply, if a guy is promiscuous, right, other women have sexually selected him. And so new women coming into his orbit look at him and think, okay, this guy gets tail elsewhere. There must be something good about him. Therefore, I too am going to be sexual with him, right? Because there's got, women are very much like that. We all are, really. I mean, you know, when there's a massive queue outside the restaurant or the restaurant looks really busy, we kind of want to go into that one. We don't want to go into the one next door when it's absolutely empty and the waiter's just, the waiter and the owner are just sitting there playing cards. Like you intuitively think, well, this one must be better because there's all these people going in there. I mean, I remember in Berlin years ago, there was this barber's quite near to where I was living. There was this Turkish barber's there. And there was always this big queue outside, and there were all these people waiting inside to get their haircuts there and blah, blah, blah. And I was always fascinated with that place. I was like, I need to go there, okay? And the only reason was because there were these queues outside. It made it seem more of a, it's just, wow, this place must be great because there's always these people queuing up. It's exactly the same impulse. It's exactly the same impulse, isn't it? He's had all these other women. Therefore, there must be something good about him. Therefore, I'm going to give him an opportunity, right? Whereas if the dude is the 42-year-old virgin, and he doesn't appear to have that access, he doesn't have that pre-selection, okay? And you can imagine pre-selection as like a little tick next to you. She's going to be less likely to give him a chance. It's not impossible, but it's going to be less likely. Interestingly, again, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, okay? And this is the case in dating as it is in anything else, right? The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Those guys who have pre-selection, who are already doing well, off the back of that will do more well, okay? They will attract more women into their world, just naturally, okay? Whereas what you will often find, and we see this in a coaching context as well, the guys who are not getting any action, okay, tends to prolong. You get into a dry spell, and then the dry spell continues for longer, and and blah blah blah, and on it goes. Okay, so it's a sad reality of life. I think that, and we've talked about this before. I think there's a pheromonal side to this where women can almost smell the conquests on you. It's the classic thing. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but when if you've had sex and then the next day you walk down the street and you've kind of got this spring in your step, you've got this attractiveness around you that you didn't have before, and you'll see women like literally checking you out, responding to you. I mean, this happened to me one time. So one time I was in Budapest and I had met this woman there. And we'd gone on a date, and we'd gone back to her place. And, we'd had sex. And her place was not in the outskirts of the city, but it was in a more residential area in the city, outside of the centre. So we went back there to her apartment, and, one thing led to another, etc., etc. We had a very good night. She had a greyhound dog who, while during the act, kept jumping on my back while I was, we were getting on with what we were getting on with, which was a little bit odd, to have a dog sort of on your back while you are in the act of coitus. But, there you go. I suppose you've got to experience everything in life. Anyway, so a good time was had by all. And in the morning, I got up and she told me how to get the tram back into the centre of town. So I get into the centre of town and I'm walking down the street, and it was really, really hot because it gets really hot in Budapest in the summer, and I was kind of looking disheveled. You know, my hair was all over the place, my face was red and puffy, and you know, my shirt's half open like it is now. You know, just not looking my best or whatever. And I needed a drink, so I walked into this shop, this little store that was selling drinks and things, and I picked up, you know, a can of Coke or something. And I go to the counter, and the woman there, and she was an older lady, she was a bit of a MILF, whatever. She was just like, it was crazy. You could see, like, she was all over me like a rash, right? She was just like, I don't know what it was, man. It was nuts. I mean, she's just looking at me. She's like, oh yeah, super, super flirty, giving me this crazy eye contact. I think I got the feeling I could probably, like, have taken her in the back and, you know, got down to business immediately. Do you know what I mean? It was just on. Now, she wasn't my type. I wasn't attracted to her, whatever, but fine. But the point of the story is that once you've been in a sexual situation, you come out of that, it's almost like other women can intuitively sense that on you, okay? And this is what I mean by the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. It's this animal thing, right? It's like he's had sex with her, and now I want him. It's really, really nuts how it works. But yeah, you're right. I mean, pre-selection, she can sense, and she probably knows anyway by how you present and your lifestyle, whatever. She can sense that you've had this sexual access elsewhere, and now she wants a piece of the pie, okay? It's very, very powerful. And this is why, by the way, when somebody was talking about Michael Sartain earlier. So Mike Sartain, his whole method, and we can do a show about this actually because it's quite interesting, but his whole raison d'etre is social circle game. And what he will do, he's lived in Vegas for a long time, and he he knows a bunch of women there and everything else, and he'll turn up to the club with like 10 women, 10 attractive women in bikinis, and that is his sort of method of bringing new women into the scenario, because the other women in the club are like, Jesus Christ, who the hell is this guy? He's made himself into what appears to be a mini celebrity in that club environment because he's surrounded by women, and the other women there are like, shit, there must be something about this guy because he's got all these women around him, and they don't really know if he slept with these women or if they're just friends or whatever, and maybe even that doesn't matter that much, because clearly at least these women are happy to be in his company, which is ticking some kind of a box. So that's why he really pushes that method, and that's why obviously that works very well for him. Because pre-selection is such a powerful tool, okay? And promiscuous guys obviously have pre-selection, and so women find them attractive. SJ says, I think... we read that one, yeah. And then Ben says, interesting that you interpreted it that way. I understood RK as mating strategies within species, not specifically female, although quantity strategy... Well, I mean, so people talk about it in the dating space, and... I think it's a K-selected... They will talk about K-selected women versus R-selected women. So a K-selected woman... I think I'm getting this the right way around. A K-selected woman is a woman who's kind of more looking for a relationship. She's more relationship material. And an R-selected woman is more sexual, and she's looking for... she's looking for fun. And it's like, right, you got to look for your K-selected woman if you're looking for a high-quality woman or whatever. That's the bit that I think is bollocks. Because I think all women are sexual. I think all women at points are sexual, and they're looking for short-term fun, and then at other points, and you could link this with the menstrual cycle, but at other points they're looking for stability, and they're looking for a partner, and at different points in their life they're looking for these different things as well. When she's young, she might be more promiscuous, she's looking for fun, she's looking for casual, no strings attached. Then when she gets older, she's looking for the other thing, okay? But to say that there are almost these two groups of women, like, oh, she's one of those, and then she's one of those, that's the bit that I think is bollocks, because it doesn't make any sense, all right? I mean, everybody is biologically designed the same, okay? It's just nonsense, and it's kind of the Madonna whore complex that certain people in the dating space have pseudo-scientifically tried to make into fact, when actually it just doesn't really stand up to any scrutiny. So Ben says, coming from a very different perspective, more like agent-based modeling and game theory. More importantly, Ben, how many approaches have you done this week? Because all of this is very interesting, but if you're not actually approaching, none of it means anything, and we might as well just stop the stream, because in the end, right, and this goes for everybody, in the end, all of this stuff is about taking action. So we can all sit here and we can all wank over all of this stuff, this conversation about RK and not R. Kelly, but RK selection, or we can talk about, the socio-political, psychological reasoning behind why this stuff is happening, and et cetera, and it's all very fascinating. But if you want to change your dating life, you need to actually go out there and talk to some fucking women. Or if you're a woman, you need to go out there and you need to put yourself into spaces where there are high-value men, and you need to subtly make them aware that you are available to talk to, okay? Everything else is meaningless. All right, everything else is meaningless. You can watch 7,000 hours worth of podcasts and it's going to do fuck all for your life. You may as well have watched 7,000 hours of SpongeBob or something, right? It's just chewing gum for the mind. It's just entertainment, unless you actually go out there and do something with it. Okay, very, very important for everybody. All right, this has to be about action in the end. If it's not about action, it's not about anything, right? You may as well be watching fucking, I don't know, The Simpsons, or you might as well be watching old episodes of Dynasty or something like that. It's all completely irrelevant unless you're actually doing something with it. And then point number 5 for why promiscuous men are more desirable to women. Point number 5 is quite simply that women like drama. Okay, women just fucking like drama. And this is the bit that is kind of nuts, okay? And I was talking to a woman about this yesterday, and I was saying that, you guys are just crazy, you really are. You guys are just nuts. Because when you think about it from a male perspective, I mean, what does a guy want? Well, what a guy wants is pretty simple, really, right? I mean, he wants an attractive girl. He wants an attractive girl who he can hang out with, have some great sex with, chill. Maybe she cooks him something. Maybe you guys get a takeout, watch a bit of Netflix and go to sleep. And that's it, right? That's all a guy wants. Whereas women, it's this whole fucking rigmarole, isn't it? It's like, oh, well, I want him to be a bad boy, but not that much of a bad boy. And I want him to call me, but not too much. And maybe I want him to text me, but he can't text me at the wrong time. And, I really fucking hate it when he disappears for a night and he turns his phone off, but I also really love it and it makes me want him more. It's just so fucking weird, this whole thing. But that is the reality. That is the reality. Women are turned on by this stuff. And what women are not turned on by, in my experience and the experience of people I've worked with and friends and stuff, is that they're not turned on by the guy who's super stable and super reliable and, they like men who are fucking risk takers. They like men who are a bit nuts, a bit crazy. And going back to Zerker, I mean, Zerker is nothing if not that. Okay, and remember that tweet where he's saying about toxicity that we showed before. Remember this bit. He says here, "I know that women crave toxic. You see me look badass, you see me look stupid, you've seen me look like a fool, and women still chase me like dogs. You see me do this without clout, money, no friends." Okay, women crave toxic, right? Women just love the fucking drama. And why is that? Hard to say. I mean, maybe somebody in the chat can help me out with this. I know Mary was in the chat. There's a couple of women in the chat. Maybe you can help me out with a reason for this. I can't explain exactly, but here's one theory. Okay, here's one theory. I think women want entertainment. All right, and as a guy that she's dating, you are kind of part of the entertainment. It's like she's got her Netflix subscription, she's got her Spotify, she's got the stuff she follows on social media, she's got her TMZ, she's got her, the stuff that she's getting these dopamine hits from. And she also wants that from the guy in her life. Okay, now she probably realizes on some level that this is not healthy. She probably realizes on some level that this is toxic. I mean, listen, I had a thing. I remember my ex-girlfriend, right? She said to me, we'd broken up. We broke up several times for various reasons. And I remember her saying to me one time, she said, "Listen, even though I know that this thing between us is toxic," she said, "even though I know that," she said, "every part of my body craves to have you back." okay? Every part of my body craves to have you back, even though I know it's toxic, all right? And that is the thing, isn't it, right? So intellectually, they might be like, well, actually, this is fucking, you know, this guy's creating drama. It's all over the place. It's fucked up. But I still want him, okay? And I think that desire for entertainment is part of it. I also think sexual attraction seems to be triggered by the unpredictability of the guy, okay? If the guy is super logical and super linear and also reliable and he pays his taxes on time and he's a good boy and all of that, then yes, he might be a good catch for sort of longer term, but he's not really setting the world on fire in terms of raw, visceral kind of lust, is he? You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem. And that's actually the problem with a lot of guys that I've worked with, a lot of guys that I've coached, because a lot of the guys that we get, actually, they're more, it's not that they're super ugly or they're, you know, maybe they're bad, not super badly dressed or any of that stuff, really. Or even, you know, some of them are pretty social. You know, some of them are guys with good social skills as well. But often we get these dudes who are more logical, right? More linear, right? They are people who maybe, you know, they work in tech or they're in coding or they might be crypto nerds or something like this. I mean, they're guys who are very analytical, very sensible, very serious, and they think that there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 very straightforward linear process, okay? And regrettably for those guys, women are emotional. So women operate on emotion 9 times out of 10, okay? Not on logic. So the logic guys, and we're all logical to some extent as guys. I mean, I'm probably a little bit more on the crazy side than the super logical side, but I'm still logical because I'm a guy. You know, we think, okay, well, if I say this and I say that and I do that, that solves the problem, right? And then she's going to be happy. But of course, it's not that, because it's not about this linear logical process. It's about how she feels. It's about how you make her feel, okay? And I was talking to Tusk about this yesterday, actually, but the most important thing, when you get away from all this stuff about looks and money and blah, 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 the most important thing, actually, is how you make her feel emotionally. Because if you can make her feel strong emotions, and guys who are toxic, guys who create drama, guys who are promiscuous, and maybe that he disappears for 2 days or he goes away for the weekend, he doesn't tell her where, and it turns out he was with another girl or something like that, that's making her feel an emotion. Okay, that's making her feel something. Now, it might be something negative, but it's still something powerful and it's still a thing. Okay? Whereas the guy, she knows he's going to turn up at 6 p.m. every Friday for their dinner date as always, right? She knows that he's always going to be there. That guy just gets fucking boring. Because he's not sparking emotion. So that, I think, is the key thing. It's the emotion that you are creating in her. Again, dude like Zerker, he's going to create emotions. A lot of the time, they're not going to be very good emotions because these women are going to be pissed off with him. But they are emotions, okay? So that, I think, is a very, very key lesson certainly for guys to take away from this. Now, if you're a woman and you're watching this, another perspective on it is maybe you need to think about your vetting process. Maybe you need to think, well, hang on a minute. Actually, this is screwing me over. You know, actually, yes, I do love this drama. And yeah, these guys are hotter. But, you know, in reality, for what I want in life, this is kind of fucking me up. And at some point, you have to come to that realization. Now, usually women come to that realization when they hit, you know, about 30 or 35 or whatever. You know, like, oh, fuck, actually, I need to get rid of... And that's why, you know, they say, oh, I'm sick of these bad boys now. I just want to find a nice, dependable dude. Which they do, and then they get bored, and then they divorce him 7 years later. How, you know, it's an ongoing conundrum. It's an ongoing conundrum. How do we get out of this, you know? But emotion is super powerful. And actually, right, so this is what, when we teach guys game, or when we teach guys dating skills, okay, certainly myself and James and other people I work with, increasingly we've moved away from any sort of sense of, okay, say these lines, you know, if you use this opener, that's really cool. If you text her this, then she's going to like that, and blah, blah, blah. We've really moved away from that. And now it's much more about, okay, what emotion am I making her feel in the initial few minutes that we are together? What emotion am I making her feel on the date? Am I being challenging? Am I being exciting? Am I sometimes contradicting her? Okay? Am I sometimes checking her behavior, right? Am I saying no to her? Okay? Am I sometimes completely disagreeing with her and going completely against what she's saying? Do I sometimes cut off, conversational threads, right? She's talking about something, it's fucking boring. You can say, well, anyway, yeah, but that's fucking boring. Anyway, let's talk about this and move on to something else, all right? There's so many subtle ways, or not so subtle ways, that you can be somebody who is shaking things up a bit, right, on that date. Because a lot of first dates for women are fucking boring. The guy sits there and he's like, wow, in 5 years' time, I hope to be a middle manager at the bank, and I'm going to have a 401k, and I'm looking to buy a home in suburbia, and I would like to find a wife and have 2.4 kids with her, and all of that. And it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, it's not exactly setting the world on fire, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's not exactly Johnny Depp at the height of his powers. It's like, really, is this it? And I've got to fuck this guy as well? I mean, Christ almighty. I mean, what a disaster, right? You can see as a guy why women wouldn't... I mean, sometimes we work with people and we say, you can see why women would not be interested in the guy as he is at that point. Because what is he really bringing to the table, right? He might be okay looking. He might not be, okay? But he's fucking boring. He's got no ambition. He's got no drive. He's got no riz. He's got no passion. He's not bringing any fucking feeling to it. He's not bringing any emotion to it. He's not making her feel anything. And it's like, well, why the fuck would she sleep with him? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what do you expect? I mean, it's just insane. Now, again, and I'm not being a fanboy here. I suppose I am, but I'm not entirely being a fanboy here. But look at Zerker. Zerker is somebody who creates fucking drama. He's somebody who creates emotion in the people around him, including the women that he engages with. Okay? Sometimes it's bad emotion. A lot of the time it probably is bad emotion. He's maybe insulting them. He's saying kind of rude things about them, whatever. But they still want him. Okay? That is the key thing. That is the keys to the kingdom. All right? It's creating emotion of whatever kind. That's what you need to do. I feel half naked, says Paradox. Quite a few comments here. Social media has done a disservice when it comes to endless attention seeking. Well, yeah, it has. It has. But I think women have always been this way. Actually, I think social media has made certain things worse, but I think women have actually always kind of liked this kind of, that bad boy character, that gallivanting rogue sort of person. They've always been more attracted to that. And you see this if you watch old movies and you read old books and things like that. This is documented a lot. So men also, I Feel Naked says, men also want entertainment, but they would rather choose a video game than a drama queen. Yeah, so I think it's a bit different for men. So as I said before, I think men are much more straightforward, right? We kind of just want, yeah, she's hot, box ticked. She's chill, box ticked. Maybe she cooks, okay, box ticked. That's it, right? It's for most guys, it's pretty straightforward. Now, actually, that's not the entire story. I actually like women who are a little bit spicy. I don't want somebody who's like a man boss. Like a boss babe who's super dominant and super domineering and all that. I don't want that. But I do like women who've got a bit of spirit, right? And we can have a good vibe. And we can have a good bit of banter. That's pretty cool. Okay, to a point. But when we're talking about drama, no, I certainly don't want somebody who is doing very toxic things and fuck you, because I just haven't got time. Like, I just haven't got time for that nonsense. Back in the day, to be honest, that maybe I did engage with that a couple of times, but that was because at that point I didn't have options, or I didn't feel that I had options. I didn't know anything about this dating stuff. My social skills weren't great. Plus, I didn't have a lot of the external value either. So, I didn't have a lot of choice. So I was in a relationship early on where this girl, she cheated on me a few times. I mean, I cheated on her as well, actually, but she cheated on me. And, I kept taking her back. I mean, the classic mistakes that you make. And I had a couple of things like that where you could say she was playing more like the male drama role. And I was sort of, not only enabling that, but also drawn back to her in spite of or because of that. But I mean, that was a long time ago, guys. I mean, we're talking a long time ago. That was a couple of decades ago. I mean, these days, absolutely not. These days, if she's doing that, she's out the door. Because one, I'm going to protect my own sanity and my own mental and emotional well-being. And two, I just haven't got the time for that bullshit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I simply haven't got the time to engage with somebody who is going to be doing that kind of stuff. And, I've got other options, and to be honest, I'd rather just be single than to be engaging with that. So, we all make these mistakes, but I think in general, I think guys are certainly not drawn to drama in the way that women are, and certainly high-value guys. And remember, I know a bunch of high-value guys. We coach them. I know people in this industry who are, multi-millionaires who have very high standards, guys in peak physical condition. I know a whole bunch of these guys. I know what they want, and they certainly don't want women who are causing drama. In that way. But women do seem to want it. And when people on here are saying, oh, well, only low quality women, what do you really mean by that? What do you actually mean by low quality women? Because remember, from the male point of view, what is quality anyway? Well, she's hot. And I know plenty of extremely attractive younger women in their early 20s who lap this stuff up. Are they high quality women? Well, it depends what your definition is. But if your definition is she's hot, which, let's face it, ultimately is what guys are looking for, then yeah, they are high quality women. Again, I think people are very binary on here. There's this distinction, oh, she's a club thought or she's like a good girl. And it's not fucking like that, man. It's not. It's much more nuanced than that, I know girls who, they go to the club, they do all this kind of stuff. And they also sit at home and they bake and it's people are not this one or the other, okay? So you've got to think a bit when you're saying these things, because it doesn't really tally with reality. War brides, the fittest women that have survived were women who quickly adapted to drama and chaos of the time. That's an interesting theory. That's an interesting theory. So when Rollo talks about war brides, what he's talking about is more the way that women can move on very quickly from a relationship. And we often observe this, how women will get over a breakup much more quickly. They'll move on to the next dude and she's forgotten about you, and the guy's still in his pants in his room weeping into his glass of whiskey or whatever. That phenomenon is often associated with this war bride concept, which is basically that women evolutionarily had to become adept at moving on very quickly from their former partner or former husband or whatever, because he might be killed in battle, or some wildebeest might wander into the tribe and eat him or something, and then, or some neighboring tribe comes in and there's a battle and they take over, and then suddenly she's forced into she's got a new husband because the guy's taken over and he's kind of just taken her, and for that reason, the theory is that evolutionarily women are much better at this than men are, because women had to sort of adapt to that in order to, as you say, to survive. To apply that to they like drama with their partner or a guy that they're actually with, that is an interesting theory. And I hadn't really thought of it like that before, and I'm not quite sure if it works, but it is interesting. Maybe that is something to do with it. I don't know. Because then we're not then talking about her moving on, because she's a war bride, right? Or she is almost like a widow, and has to move on very quickly to the new guy. We're talking about still being with the same guy. So I don't know if it quite works, but it is interesting. There might be something in that. Mary says, women are blasted with attention all the time, whether it be male attention, propaganda from corporations, advertisements, all cater to giving women endless amounts of attention, stimulation. Yeah. We then expect that same... Okay, right. So this is interesting. So Mary says, we then expect that same level of attention and stimulation from all our relationships. That kind of keys into what I was saying before. My suspicion that women regard, and particularly young women, regard the man in their life as being a source of entertainment, a source of drama, in the same way that maybe her Netflix account or her Instagram or what she's seeing on TikTok or these other forms of entertainment. You are just there as the guy. And people will say, oh, dancing monkey, but It's not quite like that. You are just there as the guy, as another entertainment source. And if you're not that entertaining, then she's going to be like, fuck, I'm going to get rid of my subscription to this dude, and I'm going to subscribe to Chad over there instead because it looks like he's going to make me feel more. I mean, listen, also, guys, look, I mean, I've had women say this to me directly. So I remember, and again, this is years ago, because I had a chode period back in the day, and now I have a super international playboy period, which is now, and the rest of my life. But you know, I certainly went through a period when I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and I made a lot of mistakes with girls, and I got into some bad situations. And, you know, I was with this girl for a while, and she ended up kind of dumping me. And when she dumped me, or even before she dumped me, she basically started to complain about the fact that it was all getting too predictable. You know, she started to sort of say, oh, I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to do. You'll let me get away with anything. I just, you know, and then they'll say the spark's gone, or it's not as exciting as it used to be, or whatever. But she would literally verbalize. She was literally verbalizing to me the stuff that I'm telling you now. And that happened, and then there was another girl, and I remember her, we didn't date for as long, but I remember her saying something similar to me. This other girl complained because her reason for not wanting to see me anymore was she said, well, I know I know all the clothes you've got in your wardrobe, like I know all the shirts you've got now and stuff. And I'm like, well, what the fuck's that got to do with it? What are you talking about? But of course, what she actually meant was, she'd seen everything she needed to see about me. There was no mystery. All right, there was no mystery at all. And there wasn't any mystery with me at that point as a boyfriend, not only because I didn't have many shirts, but also because, you know, I would meet the girl and I would not fall in love with her, but I would be like, okay, she's hot. I want to continue seeing her. You know, I would be infatuated with her. And so then I would just toe the line of anything. You know, I would never cancel a date. I would always be early for the date. I would always, you know, we probably end up doing kind of similar things every time. These women would get bored with that. They wanted, I mean, the first girl that I was talking to you about, she even, and I can't quite remember exactly how she couched it, but she basically told me, look, I want more excitement. I crave, she said, she used to talk also about liking bad boys, you know. She used to like guys who appeared on Crime Watch, which is, for people in the UK who know that show, it's about several of her ex-boyfriends that actually appeared on Crime Watch. You know, she was into these kind of working class lads who were sort of, you know, they're getting up to no good. And she was a very, you know, well-brought-up middle-class girl, by the way. She was like 22 at the time, or whatever, 21, 22 at the time. And she literally told me that's what she wanted. Now, at the time, because we didn't have an internet then, and I didn't really understand this stuff, and I just thought, well, she's nuts or whatever. But, of course, then we get the internet and we start to join the dots, and you realise this is actually, it's not just her. This is actually a common theme amongst females, right? You know, not only did this girl want bad boys, but she also wants somebody, she kind of wanted somebody to treat her like shit. And she basically told me that. Her basic reason for dumping me was, you don't treat me like shit enough. You know, and you're like, and again, you know, it's like, I mean, it's insane. You know, it's insane. But that's how it is, because I wasn't giving her the tingles. I wasn't sparking her desire. I wasn't sparking her excitement anymore. And of course, over time, you learn these lessons, right? You learn actually, well, okay, I need to be a bit more mysterious then. I need to, and people talk about being the bad boy. I'm not talking about being an arsehole. I'm not talking about treating people badly, but you need to be a bit more challenging. You need to be more commanding. You need to just fucking, you know, you need to say no to her. You need to disagree with her. You need to tease her. And you need to be not so available, okay? And this is the thing that Rollo always talks about. You need to be your own mental point of origin. This is why all these red pill dudes bang on all the time about why you need to put your mission first, okay, over and above the girl, right? You need to put your mission first, because if you're super focused on your mission, it's like, no, I'm doing this. I'm going to make $1 billion. I'm going to build this company. I'm going to do this. You're super focused on that. You don't really give a fuck about the girl. It's like, yeah, it's great. We can sleep together sometimes. You can come over, whatever. I'll ring you at 11 p.m. and get you over, or 12 a.m. or whatever, and you can, you know, I'll get you an Uber over here, whatever. But you're not really putting that much into it. Then that is more, ironically then, she's going to be more likely to hang around, okay? If you're showering her with this attention and she always knows where she's at and there's never any tension, there's never any sort of, you know, and she can read you like an open book, then she gets bored, she loses interest, And that's when she goes and fucks Chad, you know? And that's it. Yeah, okay. Women are blasted. Yeah, okay. So that point about that Mary made about, you know, all of the stimulation, and I think that's only going to get worse because we're all being bombarded with stimulation the whole time. That's only going to increase. So yeah, I think this drama thing is going to continue, and also as well, like I think for women, especially young women who are sort of in their 20s, whatever, they're not often looking to settle down yet. You know, they feel that they've got time and whatever. So they are doing this for fun. They are doing this for fun, fundamentally. You know, they are sport fucking, essentially. And so they're going to go for the guys who are going to give them, they crave, you know, that dopamine hit. They crave that emotional fucking roller coaster ride. And if you are not supplying that, then, you know, you're going to get kicked to the curb pretty quickly. Pearl says he's right. Marriage causes divorce. Can you tell Zerker to stop licking the ice cream? He is spoiling the next generation of wives. I don't think. Yeah. So Pearl says most women have turned down guys on paper who are better in every way. We like guys that make us feel a certain way. Absolutely, yes. Are you kidding? We love suburbia. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of women, certainly that I've dated, you know, they like the city. They move to London for a while. They're like, yeah, I like the city. They go to the restaurants, the clubs, the bars. They have a good time. They probably fuck around a bit. And then a lot of people end up moving to suburbia. You know, a lot of people end up moving to Kent, or they'll move to Essex or something, or Surrey, move a little bit further out, go to IKEA, have a couple of kids, etc. You know, that's the basic trajectory. So I think people do like suburbia after a while. Pearl, is it true if you ask on a date with a guy who talks way too much and logical, you will likely not sleep with him too quickly? I'm dead too funny, Pearl says. A spicy woman can appear like a bitter woman. I don't know how you change her frame. The social situation is always tense. Well, I don't. Depends how you're defining spicy. I mean, what? I'm probably not defining it very well. I just like women with a bit of spirit, right? I like women who have something to say for themselves. You know, who can, you can have a bit of a joke, you can have a bit of a laugh, you can have a bit of banter. I don't mind them being a bit challenging. Okay, you know, I mean, like for example, I was with this girl. I was with this girl the weekend or the other weekend, and we were chatting afterwards on message, and I said to her, I don't know, I can't remember how it started, but we were chatting on message, and I mentioned something about. I said, "Oh, you know, I went to the bathroom, and I noticed because there's an age, you know, she's younger than me. I said, "Oh, I noticed in the bathroom, you know, I had a grey hair at the front." And she messaged back and she said, there was more than one grey hair. Lol, you know, laughy face and stuff. Things like that. You know, I don't mind little teases and stuff like that. So she's not being a bitch. It's not malicious. She's not trying to grab the frame or anything. But she is being a little bit cheeky. And she's you know, she's engaging in that. I quite like that, you know, a little bit of banter. What I don't like is a woman who's just gonna try and be super masculine and kind of just take over the fucking thing and being really, the worst thing is as well is when if a woman is ever really genuinely like sort of nasty to you or abusive, you need to kick that to the curb, absolutely. But I like a bit of spirit, you know, I like a bit of humor, I like a bit of back and forth. I don't like somebody who's going to be so passive, they're just going to sit there and not do anything and kind of just, you know, just nod in obedience the whole time. But fundamentally, I do also like women who are very submissive and very feminine. So it's a very, I guess maybe it's a specific thing to me, but I think you can find it. I mean, Eastern European women are often like this. You know, this is why a lot of these Ukrainian women, for example, they've got these qualities. They are fundamentally quite sweet and quite submissive, but they can also have a joke around a bit. They've got their own opinions. They've got their own mind. That's what I like. It's kind of a sweet spot. In my opinion, high quality woman is not the low body count necessarily, but she knows how to discern what is good and bad, and she knows how to communicate effectively. Emotional stability. Yeah, I'm not sure about. Yeah. it sounds good. I'm not quite sure. It's just me. I'm not interpreting that properly. So you mean she knows what good, right from wrong, and she's going to act in the right way, and she can communicate effectively. I think, well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, body count, that's a whole other topic. I guess a lot of people, maybe when you say high quality woman, you think low body count, and that's it. And that, I get, that's part of it. I mean, yeah, nobody wants to really wife up a woman who's got like hundreds and thousands of notches on her bedpost. But I think being chill is a really big thing, actually. I really do. I think actually just being chill as a woman is very attractive. Marriage causes divorce. They like to be choked and spanked. 50 Shades of Grey is a real thing. Yeah, indeed. It is. And I mean, there's a reason why that was one of the best-selling books ever. I think it's better. I think it sold better than the Bible. I mean, that's just the degree to which it's a massive thing. So yeah, obviously that tapped into something a lot of women like. Win Christian Grey, Hybristophilia. So Mart says we are coming together to entertain each other. People are bored. Yeah, we are, but as I say, I think the fundamental difference is, I think for most guys, really, it's kind of like, yeah, I want to meet a girl. She's attractive. I find her sexy. We can have a pretty chill time together, a couple of drinks, maybe a dinner, and then we go to bed, and that's it. Like, I think guys are much more straightforward in what they desire from women, for the most part. They will have some more caveats if it comes to something serious like marriage or a longer term relationship. But in general, I think we're pretty chill about it. I think women have these things, as I say, that seem counterintuitive. Like, she likes drama. She likes a guy who might cheat on him. She likes a guy who has cheated on him. I mean, it's kind of, from a male perspective, it's really crazy to get your head around that stuff. But that's how it is, and we need to understand this. Yeah, marriage causes divorce. Says giving her less attention equals a demonstration of higher value. Yeah, and there's all of that stuff as well. Now, women talk about this also because, there was that whole thing years ago, wasn't there? You don't call for 3 days after. You leave it 3 days before you message her or something like that. I mean, don't do that now. That's all old school stuff. I mean, we're on 24/7 these days, but. Yeah, I mean, I think in general, if you're blowing up her phone the whole time and you're messaging her stupid stuff incessantly, that's probably going to be a turn-off. And particularly, and here's another tip, particularly if you are messaging her text and reams of text and paragraphs, and you're sending her those good morning texts and things like this. The way I tend to do it is I'll send random stuff occasionally. So I might send a GIF, I might send a meme, one of those stickers, those crazy sticker things. I might send her a song, I might send her a video, I might do a voice note, I might do a video of myself, and I'll mix it up. I'll mix up the stuff that I'm sending her. The worst thing you can do is send super logical and quite long texts. That is not good. And Donovan Sharp, when I was on Fresh and Fit last time, we were both on the show, memorably said, if you want to lose a woman in Miami, the best way to do it is to send her a good morning text, because she'll block you immediately. And what he meant by that was that, firstly, women in Miami are fucking super, just sort of like jaded and cynical and stuff. But it's like, if you're being that nice guy, logical texter, good morning, how are you today? She's like, oh, this guy's a fucking chump. Whereas the dude who goes on a coke bender and then disappears for 5 days and then rings her from Mexico and asks to borrow some money to come home, she's like, oh, he's so sexy, he's so edgy, he's so like this, that, and the other. Completely counterintuitive, but this is just the way of the world. So we need to understand it. Troy Francis, how would you as a young man decipher who is about it? Well, I mean, calling me a young man is a very oh, wait a minute. Are you calling me a young man, or are you saying maybe you're a young man? Regardless, how would you decipher who is about it? Theory versus keyboard warrior influencer doesn't go out on like you. I think I mean, gut instinct, I think, is a big thing, really. Which I know is not a very robust answer, but I think, you know, you've just got to watch their content and just think, do I resonate with this dude or not? Now, actually, there are people like Rollo Tomasi has been married for nearly 30 years. Okay, he's not going out pimping it, you know. And people will often criticize him and make that mistake and be like, "Oh, well, let's see him in the nightclub picking up girls. Then, you know, let's see him, you know, doing it and stuff." And it's like, he's an author. He's been married for nearly 30 years. He's somebody who observes the human condition and these dating dynamics and he intergender dynamics, and he writes about it. Okay, that's his role. He's never claimed to be a pickup guy. He's never claimed to be a dating coach. Okay, even though he writes about the subject matter. So you can learn something from people who are not going out. Okay, I think it would be incorrect to say that you can't learn anything from a guy who's not out in the field. That's the first thing. The other way of looking at it, and of all people, Andrew Tate actually made this point, which was that even if it's really about the quality of the advice and if the advice helps you in your life or not. And Andrew Tate, I mean, bizarrely kind of for him to say this, but he actually said, I remember this one time on Twitter, even if a guy is a sexless virgin in reality, but he's giving out good advice, that's still useful because it might still help somebody. Okay, so I think the key thing is, ideally, don't listen to people who have no experience of what they're talking about. But in the end, it's also about, well, is this advice giving me something? Is this improving me? Is this encouraging me to go out and take action for myself? Okay, and if it is, I would say that's valid. But I think a lot of it is down to, do you just resonate with the content creator? Do you think, okay, this guy seems to know what he's talking about, and I get a good vibe from them. I think that's as simple as it gets, really. I mean, there are some content creators that I watch, and I think they're coming from a good place, and it's gut instinct. I mean, I don't know, but I think they're coming from a good place. And, you know, sometimes, so let's say, for example, so when Real Social Dynamics was a big deal on, you know, and they were doing a lot of stuff relating to game and to dating and how to go and meet girls and stuff like that, I used to follow a lot of their content. Now, Owen Cook, Tyler Durden, very influential in talking about dating for men and stuff like that. He made some fantastic videos and continues to make some fantastic videos with great concepts, really getting into the depths of male-female dynamics and what to do and how to come across and blah, blah, blah. Now, in real life, who was he dating? Who was he meeting? How many women was he actually bringing back? How many women did he actually slept with in his life? You know, there were rumours. And I don't know. I mean, I do know Owen a little bit. So if you see this, Owen, I'm not throwing shade. I'm just using this as an example. There were rumours that he actually hadn't slept with that many women. There were also rumours that, you know, some of the women that he'd been with had been, you know, not considered by the commenter to be of very high quality. But for me, as a viewer, I was just like, well, so what? I don't really care. Because the stuff that he's saying is resonating with me, it's causing me to take action, and it's also helping me when I'm going out and I'm being social, I'm meeting people. So I don't really give a damn what his dating life looks like. I don't really give a damn who he's with or who he's not with or how many people he slept with. It doesn't fucking matter. You don't need to have slept with 1,700 women to understand female nature. You don't need to have slept with, you know, 1,700 women in order to be able to disseminate, you know, to unpick and analyze this stuff and disseminate it and talk about it with understanding and with insight and give people some actionable tips and advice. You just don't, you know? It's not about that. It's more about, is the person firstly able to understand this stuff to a decent degree? And secondly, is he able to articulate it in a way that's entertaining and is also educational? And if they're ticking those boxes, I think that's fine, personally. Which I know is a bit of a woolly answer because, you know, you might say, yeah, but I want to see receipts. Well, okay, fine. But I'm just saying as another way of looking at it. And I think gut instinct is very important because I think you can kind of tell, you know. There are some content creators I just wouldn't watch because I just look at them or look at their stuff. I'm just like, yeah, this guy's full of shit. And there are others that I'm drawn to. And I can't logically necessarily explain that, but that's just how it is. Marriage causes divorce. This Christian Grey is greater than Jesus. I mean, that's a little bit contentious, but But there you go. Okay, guys. Well, look. So we've been through the 5 reasons why promiscuous men are more desirable to women. So let's just recap. Firstly, because they're just inherently more attractive. Because a hotter guy is going to be able to, he's going to have access to more women. So he's just going to be more attractive to them anyway. Number 2 is that women are more likely, or women are inclined to share a high-value man rather than be with a guy who's of a lesser level, but is going to be super faithful to her. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is preselection. So this guy's promiscuous. He's had access. He's had sexual access with all of these women. Therefore, there must be something good about him. Therefore, other women are more likely to, to want to get in with him than somebody else. Okay, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer in dating as well as in money. So there's that. And then number 4. Oh, I didn't do number 4. I'm so sorry, guys. I skipped. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, so this will now actually be number 5. Okay, so the final one, because we talked about drama. So the final one, the 5th one is, which should have been number 4, is because if you guys are going to see each other less, because he's out there being promiscuous, he's seeing other women, okay, he's dating around, then that is going to keep the relationship between, the woman and him fresher, right, and more exciting as a result, okay? And, the old expression, familiarity breeds contempt. And, again, and I was talking, actually, I think I was talking to Pearl about this yesterday, because she'd heard somebody expressing something similar, but it's kind of like... sometimes it's easier for a guy to have a rotation of 3 women than it is for him to have one girlfriend. And one of the reasons for that is because if you are sort of splitting up your time between 3 different women, you're not putting too much onus on one woman. You're not putting too much attention on her. You're not seeing her too much. It remains fresh. It remains exciting. It remains kind of sexy, okay, for her. And so the relationships... once she starts seeing the guy and he's this promiscuous dude and maybe he's doing some other stuff, maybe she knows about it, maybe she doesn't, maybe it's just unspoken, which is often the case in like hookup culture, as people have said. It's sort of, people kind of know it's going on, but it's not really talked about, whatever. Okay, fine. The very fact that he is not round at her place every single night, the very fact that there is some distance between them, some space, actually, again, makes him more attractive. And a relationship can last a lot longer. I mean, like, so with, I think a mistake people make is moving in together too quickly, okay? I think it's a mistake to move in too quickly for various reasons. But, I mean, one thing is, if you want some duration here, you want to, the longer that you guys are living separately, and maybe you're seeing each other twice, even 3 times a week, whatever, that's fine. But there is some space, there is some separation. It does keep things fresh. Okay, it does keep things fresh for longer. And we talked in a different stream about this whole thing of, should people live in separate houses? Cameron Diaz talking about people living in separate houses or at least separate bedrooms. And, that's one thing that people are trying. But, the very nature of a guy who is promiscuous is that he's not going to be around all the time because he's having sex with other women. And that is also a plus point because, there used to be an old adage, make her miss you. Make her miss you. And if she misses you, she's thinking about you, because you're not there. That is also an attractive thing, okay? So that would be number 5. Basically because you'll see each other less because he's doing other things or he's doing other people, let's say. Yeah, so that's it. And then the other one was, of course, drama. So women just love drama, and drama is inherent when you're looking at a relationship where somebody is being promiscuous on one of the sides. So it is what it is, guys. Those are 5 reasons why promiscuous men are more desirable to women. There may be more reasons. If you can think of any, do put them in the comments below, or let me know. You can email me, troy@realtroyfrancis.com. If you have got ideas or anything you want to see us cover on this show, then again, let me know. Put a comment below. Please do like this video. We want to get up to, at least 15, 20 likes if we can for this one. Really helps push it up the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and hit notifications. I'm going to be back tomorrow with another show. We may have a guest on tomorrow, actually. I watched this space, but we may have a guest who's going to come on and we're going to talk about her relationship issues and situations. So look out for that one. Marriage causes divorce, says absence makes the heart grow fonder, familiarity breeds contempt. Yeah, absolutely. And look, maybe we do another show about that, because that's a whole other fucking problem. You know, then what do? You meet somebody, you're in love with her, you guys are getting super close. Now it's time to move in. Oh, fuck. Now it's all going to go to shit. Or it might go to shit. I mean, not 100% of the time, but moving in together, you lose that mystery. You lose that sort of, that separation, that kind of like, oh, what's he doing tonight? You know, that mystery, that sense of, you know, missing that other person. And then it can start to get a bit bland and a bit stale. So maybe we'll talk about that in a different show. Anyway, Mary says, thanks, Troy, you're a sweetheart. Absolutely. English gentleman, here to serve. Join me tomorrow at around 2 p.m. UK time. That will be 9 a.m. EST and 6 a.m. Pacific time. Give me a like, as I said, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.